And good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Most Important Conversations meditations. We host these meditations Monday through Friday each morning, and the overarching theme of our meditations is liberation, specifically liberating yourself from your learned conditioning, from what you learned from your friends, family, community, where as very young children, we were told who to be, how to be, why to be, and what to do in order to gain approval, validation. And this became a habitual way of thinking and seeing the world. We're going to talk about more about seeing the world this morning as we expand this conversation around perception. But we host these meditations to provide insights as well as to help you do the work to be able to start disentangling the conditioning that is running your life, that is having you live someone else's life other than your own. And each day before each meditation, we have a short talk. The content of these talks are derived from our core program inside of the Most Important Conversations called Whole Life Architecture. And so if you'd like to know more about whole life architecture, you can go to tmicglobal.com. It's a live interactive workshop community where the participants are actively doing the work and learning how to decondition themselves, how to liberate themselves from their conditioning, and how to create a life by design as opposed to merely tolerating their life by default. We've been speaking this past month and a bit about creativity because it's the beginning of the year, and how accessing our innate creativity as the source essence of who we are as human beings, which is as a creator, is an important and necessary step in being able to create a life by design as opposed to merely consuming and tolerating a life by default, consuming a life by default from outside yourself. That means you're going outside of yourself to determine who you should be, how you should be, why you should be it, and what you should be doing as a being, as opposed to generating it from within, having trust of self, connecting to and experiencing yourself as a profound and powerful creator of your life, and realizing that you have always been the creator of your life. You just didn't know you were doing it because you created the conditions that led to certain things occurring. You maybe created things occurring directly by being decisive and making decisions, and how you made this decision over that decision is largely derived by your conditioning. And this is all subconscious. There is a way to unlock this. There is a way to allow it to rise to the surface and liberate yourself from it. And then there is a way for you to be with the space that the deconditioning and liberation process creates, so that you can step into that space as a profound creator. And one of the key things about creativity, which we started talking about yesterday, is perception. If you imagine an artist, a fine artist, they have a certain perception. They're looking at a blank canvas or a wall or whatever material they're going to be working with, and they see the unseen. They have a vision for what's possible. Or if it's not that clear and they're, say, more an abstract artist, they feel what they want the painting to look like. But one way or another, they are deeply and profoundly connected to the creator essence and the emotions and the visions and their imagination and everything that is fueling what eventually guides their behavior, guides their action, and essentially guides what gets created. Now, few people in our society live life this way. This doesn't mean you have to be an artist, but if you imagine your life as the canvas, you would need to have a certain perspective or perception in order to have a vision for what's possible for you. If your perception is narrowed by your conditioning, then your vision for what's possible and what you may choose to create, or even what you create consumptively as a result of your conditioning, will be much more narrow. And so the more you can widen your perception. It's like widening the aperture on a camera. The more you let in, the more you say yes to in life, the more that you're not an automatic no, the more you stop closing off. We teach in whole life architecture, for example, that we don't believe in boundaries, because boundaries are an artificial construct that's put up to protect and wall off something. In this case, a person, or their emotional state, or their mental state. But all this points to and indicates is something unhealed, something unresolved, something untransformed in the person. The boundary is actually evidentiary of someone who is not able or yet willing to confront and deal with that part of themselves that they are walling off with the boundary. When you become fully liberated from your conditioning and you're standing in your true nature and power as a creator, you don't need a boundary because your very being becomes the boundary. Now, why are we talking about boundaries? Boundaries necessarily, when we talk about boundaries, typically as this artificial construct, this thing that separates me from you, or me from a circumstance, or me from a situation, or me from a choice or a decision I may otherwise have made. When we're talking about those kind of boundaries, we're talking about a constrained perception, because by creating the boundary, you constrain what's possible in that area, and you limit it to the very meager and finite and small capacity that you have in that area. Now, boundaries can be useful for a time. We don't believe in them in whole life architecture. Our intention in our work is to help people not have boundaries, but that they become the boundary. Their very essence only attracts that which aligns with who they are, and it repels that which who they are not. But boundaries can be, they're kind of like training wheels on a bike. So for a while, your perception of what's possible in your life may be artificially constrained by the boundaries that you've set up in your life as you try to grasp for some kind of security or clarity through whatever change you may be going through. But ultimately, we don't want boundaries. Ultimately, we want to create individuals who are standing in their full power as creator and do not need to put up a boundary. So coming back to perception, boundaries are one way that we constrain our perception. Another way that we constrain our perception is we get trapped in what we're right about. We have had whatever experience, or someone has shared something with us, and we believe it to be true. Our belief system can constrain our perception, and we can get trapped in what we're right about in terms of what we believe. And most often that's the case, because whatever we think we are right about in any area of our life, we might be right about our opinion about relationships, the state of the world, the role of men and women, our spirituality, whether the Bible is true or not, or the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, or any of the, the Torah, any of these spiritual books. Whenever we get trapped in one way of thinking, we get trapped in what we're right about, and suddenly we've created dualism. There's us and there's not us, or the other. And when we get trapped in what we're right about, this is another way that we constrain our perception of what's possible. And whenever we constrain our perception of what's possible, whether it's being trapped in what we're right about or setting up these artificial training wheel boundaries, because we can't be whole, complete, and totally liberated and open yet. And there are other ways that we constrain our perception. But whenever we're constraining our perception, we're also constraining what's possible for us. It's like we have a very narrow gaze. And we're missing opportunity that is all around us. It's already there. This conversation that's been going on for the better part of 15 or so years about this phenomenon that was popularized with The Secret called manifestation is not really all that magical. at least not from our perspective at Whole Life Architecture. What manifestation is simply energetics. It doesn't mean you can sit at home and attract anything you want into your life by just sitting on the couch watching television. And unfortunately, that film really misled a lot of people. What manifestation is shifting your perception to see what you couldn't see before, and then your energetics align with that more expanded perception, and new opportunities start showing up for you. Now, these opportunities were always there. You just couldn't see them, and who you were being in the world may have been repelling them. So it's not magic. You know, we have all of these colloquialism sayings in our culture like birds of a feather flock together, or you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with. What are we talking about when we're saying things like this? We're talking about alignment of energetics. Birds of a feather flock together. Why? Because they're aligned energetically. You become like the 5 people you hang out with. Why? Because of brain entrainment. We consume, if we're not a creator, from the outside in who we should be, and then we adapt to it so that we can be validated and approved of and feel secure and not exiled by the group, but we abandon ourself in the process, our true self. So we're constantly contorting, trying to be someone we're not, simply to fit in. And then we have to set up boundaries because we're already living someone else's life, being someone that we aren't authentically ourselves. We have to set up little boundaries all over the place, little training wheel boundaries, because we're not whole and complete and standing in our power. So, well, in this area of my life, I'd appreciate it if you didn't do this. You know, it's like we try to kind of nudge in this area and that area, something that more closely aligns with who we are. But we don't transform the whole thing when we're playing the boundary game. Instead, we're just triaging. We're kind of, it's like a way to make do because we haven't stood in our full trust of self, creative essence, power, are liberated from our conditioning power to be whole, complete in who we actually are in the world and not give a damn what anyone thinks about us or what they say about us. I don't need training wheels if I'm not attached to what you believe or what you might do as a result of what you believe as it pertains to me. If I don't care, and I don't mean not care in like an insensitive way, but I don't care in the sense of I'm me, you're you. If we don't align, then so be it. It doesn't matter to me because my interest as a liberated person is only aligning with people and circumstances that align with who I authentically am. I don't want to have to put up training wheel boundaries all over the place simply just to get along and triage a life that I haven't designed by myself, that I'm merely tolerating this life by default that I'm inheriting. Boundaries can make a life by default tolerable, but it's not going to make a life, boundaries can make a life by default tolerable, but it's not going to create a life by design. Boundaries simply make it a life by default tolerable. So if you've got boundaries in your life, there's one of the first pieces of evidence that your perception is narrowed and constrained, that you're living a conditioned by default life, and that you're just trying to make it bearable for yourself. And so our work at the most important conversations and in whole life architecture is to invite people into a container who don't want to do this anymore. They don't want to have boundaries for this, that, and the other thing. They don't want to have a constrained perception of what's possible to them, constrained by the boundaries they've set up, constrained by their perception is constrained in terms of what's possible by what other people think they should do or who they should be. They don't want to live that way anymore. And if that's you, I would invite you to go to tmicglobal.com and join us in Whole Life Architecture for our weekly live interactive workshop. So as we move into our meditation this morning, we're going to be doing a watcher-observer meditation. And I would invite you in this meditation to take the opportunity to listen to what your subconscious may want to share with you about where you are limiting your perception. Do you have boundaries? And why do you have them? Is it because you're trying to make some area of your life more tolerable? Is your perception constrained in terms of what's possible for you, your vision for your life? Is it constrained by what other people think and say about you? Are you waking up every morning feeling whole, complete, and totally alive with tons of energy? Are you engaging in activities throughout your day that bring aliveness to you? You can't wait to do them, to engage with them. You can't wait to get up every morning to continue the journey. If you're not having this kind of life experience, you might want to get curious as to why. Now, a lot of people in our current culture where there's nothing but complaint, nothing but blame, nothing but grievance going on, it's easy to get caught up in that because you can look outside yourself and say, well, I don't have to change, they have to change, it's all their fault. But the reality is, even they are creators of their own life. Even you, if that's your perspective, are a creator of your own life. You've created the conditions, not anyone else. You made the choices you've made. You've responded to what showed up in life in the way that you responded. And people can blame everyone and anyone, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't resolve anything. The only way you can change and resolve your situation is by getting honest, and that means looking within and then doing the kind of work we do in whole life architecture, which, by the way, is an ongoing ontological container. This isn't a 1-week course. It's not a 3-month course. It has no end. When else do you spend in your week to work on yourself actively in a community that cares about you getting the outcome, that supports you, that journeys with you? That's what it takes. You didn't become who you were in a week, a month, or 3 months. You didn't go to a retreat and become who you were. Sure, you can get insights, you can get motivation and inspiration at these kinds of experiences. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. But to assume that you're going to transform yourself without being regularly involved in a process that is designed to help you transform yourself is just fantasy thinking. And so this morning, as we move into our watcher observer meditation, be in a comfortable position. Take a few deep cleansing breaths. And this is a very easy yet difficult at the same time kind of meditation, because you're going to have thoughts that are going to creep into your awareness. As you're sitting there with an empty mind, suddenly a thought, planning, worry, anxiety, I've got to do this, forgot to do that. How could they do that to me? Thoughts are just going to pop into your head because that's what the brain does, it thinks. You don't have to chase and entertain every thought. This meditation helps you develop the watcher-observer posture where you can allow a thought to come in and out of your awareness, just like a cloud drifts in and out of your awareness if you were looking up at the sky. You can acknowledge the thought, but don't chase it, don't think about it, don't ruminate on it. You may also have emotions that pop up. Let the emotions pop up, don't suppress them, don't repress them, but also don't engage with them. You know, they say, psychologists tell us that emotions typically only last about 90 seconds, but it's the story and the ruminating that we do, that we wrap around it, that keep it going on and on and on. For many people, years. Let the emotion come up. And let it just rise and fall like the waves on the ocean. Let it go. Just remain the watcher and the observer during this time. And this practice will serve you well in the of the world dynamics of life when you go out and you're engaging in your job, you're engaging with your acquaintances, you're taking care of family matters, whatever your day looks like. The ability to not get enrolled and sucked into the drama of the stories that all of the people you know are just sitting in. When you learn to be the watcher observer, you can watch, you can observe, but you don't get enrolled in it. You don't get energetically pulled into it. You don't get emotionally trapped in it, even your own stories. You'll notice as you practice this style of meditation, you'll be able to start observing it and watching it as though it's this sort of thing. It's not even you necessarily. It's like an artifact. You can become curious about it. This meditation is designed to help widen your perception and your perspective of your own life. Instead of being trapped in the minutia and the myopia of a feeling or a thought, you get to stand outside of it and observe it from afar and see that all the drama that you typically get enrolled with wasn't necessary. Things are easily handled when you're not confusing your lifestyle for your life. So for the next few minutes, be seated in a comfortable position and just watch and observe your thoughts and your emotions rise and fall. And I'll see you all in a few minutes. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back and reconnect to the world without from the world within. Reconnecting from hopefully what was a peaceful and clear and content period of just watching and observing and not having to attend to and not getting enrolled and anxious and worried and over planning or whatever goes on for you. Being able to just be to the side of those things, even for a while. And perhaps some insights came to you about areas of your life where you've got boundaries and walls and all of these protective barriers. Maybe there's areas in your life that you became present of that you're dissatisfied with, and where you maybe are even complaining, wishing for something else to be going on. These are all areas that you're out of alignment with. They don't align with you, your authentic you. And maybe you don't know what to do about them, but at least the awareness is there, and that's the start. So I'd invite you as you go about your day to just be open. Let that sit in the back of your mind, whatever showed up for you, whatever area of dissatisfaction, whatever boundaries, whatever complaints, whatever areas you feel dysregulated around. And ask yourself, how long are you going to tolerate these areas? How long before you finally choose to take action and stand in your power as a creator of your life, to begin to create a life by design, even just in those areas that showed up for you? Wouldn't it be great to address those areas from a place of creative power to create something that does align for you in that area? Could be your relationships, your friendships, your work, your health, your money, whatever it is. You deserve, you have the right to live an aligned, happy, joyful, alive life. And if that interests you at all, I'd invite you to go to tmicglobal.com. Check out Whole Life Architecture. We hope to see you there. I'd like to wish each and every one of you a wonderful day, and we will continue our meditations tomorrow morning.